Hi, my name is Woodard Holland, and I'd like to give you my testimony. I was raised in a Christian home, brought up in a Christian family, Christian mom and dad. I like to say I was drugged to church from 9 months before I was born. And growing up in church, I had heard salvation week in and week out. And there was a time in my life when I was about 6 years of age that I thought I wanted to be saved, but it didn't quite click for me. And I'll never forget, I was just before my 10th birthday. It was in April of 1989, and the preacher had come to preach, and it happened to be my granddad preaching a revival at our church. And he got up and he preached on Monday night, and I don't remember really what he said, but it began to stir some things inside of me. And I went home Monday night and I laid down on the bottom bed of my bunk bed, and I just stared there at the bunk bed, stared at the upper bunk, just looking at it. And I began to think about what would happen to me if I died. And I couldn't picture myself anywhere but in hell. And all I could lay there and see is myself burning. And I tried to toss and turn and forget about it and get the thought out of my head, and it just wouldn't go away. And I for some reason, was able to ignore it that night. And knew Tuesday we had another night of the revival, and the preacher was going to be preaching again. And so I went to church again on Tuesday, and it's because what we did, the church doors were open, my family was going to be in church, and so I had to be there. And the preacher got up and he preached again, and my heart was convicted, but I just wasn't strong enough to walk down the aisle. And I was a shy kid. I wasn't one to jump out in front of people and announce anything. And so I went home and crawled back in my bed, and I hadn't said anything to anybody about what was going on or how I felt. And I'm laying there in bed on Tuesday night, April the 10th, and I'm seeing myself burning in hell again. And I'm tossing and turning, and I'm like, why won't this go away? And I knew why it wouldn't go away. It's because I knew I was lost and I was going to hell. And I got up, and I knew if I got out of bed, because mom and dad already told me to go to bed, I was probably going to be in trouble, and I better have a pretty good reason to be getting out of bed. And mom and dad were out in the living room still chatting from the revival meeting, discussing some things. And so I walked out there, and I talked to mom and dad, and they go, "What are you doing out of bed?" And I said, "Well, I'm afraid I'm going to go to hell tonight." And they said, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm afraid I'm going to go to hell tonight." And I'll never forget, my dad got out of this blue lazy boy chair, and my mom was on this kind of cream colored sofa, and both of them got down on the floor with me, and we knelt right there between the couch and the lazy boy. And my dad led me in the sinner's prayer, and I trusted Jesus Christ as my personal Lord and Savior. And the next night, Wednesday night, was the last night of the revival, and I went to church, and I couldn't wait for the preacher to get done preaching, because I just wanted to run down the aisle and tell everybody that I'd gotten saved. And it was so exciting to be able to finally get a good night's sleep and put to rest, that it didn't matter if I didn't wake up tomorrow. That if I woke up tomorrow, I was going to wake up in the arms of Jesus, and I was going to be perfectly fine, and I didn't have to worry about where I was going to spend eternity ever again. And so that's my testimony of when I got saved.